was written by Francisco Candido Javier and dictated by the Spirit of Emmanuel. We're going to be talking about chapter 120, reconciliation. Reconcile quickly with your adversary while you are on the way with him, so that he does not hand you over to the judge, and so that the judge does not hand you over to the officer, and so that you will not be thrown into prison. This was said by Jesus in Matthew chapter 5, verses 25. After having received the exhortation of this passage, many a noble soul suffer inwardly when confronted with the hardness of a former adversary who is unwilling to reconcile. The Master's warning, however, is fundamentally consoling to the individual conscience. The Master's recommendation to reconcile is like saying, do your part. Correct your past errors as much as possible. Make every effort to display your persevering goodwill. Insist on kindness and understanding. If your adversary is unmoved, think of the time when you too were unaware of your fundamental obligations and see if you yourself did not act even worse. If he or she is a bad person, count on him or her among the sick and imbalance on the road to recovery. Do as much good as possible while you are walking the same path, because if your enemy is so implacable that he or she seeks to turn you over to the judge at any cost, you too will have evidence and proofs to show. A legitimate trial includes all the pieces, and only spirits truly impenetrable to the goodwill suffer the rigors of justice to the extreme. Strive, therefore, as much as possible for harmony. But if your adversary scorns your good intentions, reconcile yourself with your own conscience and wait trustingly. In reflection, in today's reflection, Emmanuel describes the difficulties that we encounter when facing those adversaries, rivals, and enemies that are not willing to reconcile with us, to make peace with us. The Master recommends that we do our part to correct our past errors, making every possible effort to show goodwill and compassion, insisting on kindness and understanding. If your adversaries are unmoved and untouched by your kindness, think of the time you were also unaware of your obligations and see if you yourself did not act worst. Try as much as possible to look for harmony, and if he or she scorns your good intentions, reconcile yourself with your own conscience and wait confidently. And with these words, and to begin today's gospel, I will ask you to please close your eyes and share with me a prayer. Let's take a deep breath and elevate our thoughts to the Almighty and say thank you. Thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunity to be here once again. Thank you for this center, Becerra de Meneses. Thank you for all the brothers and sisters that are here with us today. Thank you for all the blessings that we have every day, dear Lord. Sometimes so small that we take them for granted. Thank you for letting us breathe the air in the morning. Thank you for letting us open our eyes and see the light of the sun. Thank you, dear Lord, for our brothers and sisters, our families, our wives and spouses. And thank you for all those things that you give us every day. We ask you, dear Lord, for the hunger in the world, for those that are suffering pain, for those children that have no food and are lonely. For those mothers that go through the pain of watching them go hungry, we ask you, dear Lord, to guide those that are in control, our governments, our leaders, so that they can try to achieve peace, so peace can replace wars, so love can replace hate. We ask you, dear Lord, to bless all the people here, those that were not able to make it, and those that don't know you yet, dear Lord. Thank you again. For these words, we welcome our brother Gilberto, that he's going to carry and do today's gospel. Make your blessings be upon him so that he can deliver the message. Thank you. So be it. Gilberto. Oh, he's going to be talking about Blessed are the Afflicted, chapter 5.
Good morning. Okay, that's it. All right, so here we are once again. And today in particular, we are going to talk about the largest chapter in the gospel. It's so large that we would need like 3 hours, bare minimum to really cover um, at least more than 50% of the content. But I'm saying all that because of two things. One, I'm going to focus on the core of the chapter. Number two, I really, really, really recommend everyone to read that chapter number 5. And this is a chapter that is good anytime to help us in so many situations when we think we are lost, when we think we're about to give up or something like that, when we think we are desperate. Go to chapter 5 and get some answers. All right, so let's see. So start with the dilemma of the humanities. Our biggest aspiration, whatever you call it, it's happiness in some form. For happiness may mean different things to different people. But whatever that is, that's the biggest aspiration of humanity. However, in the meantime, guess what? We're looking around and asking the question, why do we suffer? So I wanted to be happy, meaning, you want to move from point A to point B, and right now point A is I'm suffering. This is not what I want. Why do we suffer? And that's a question that comes from people of all, social positions, different countries, doesn't matter. It goes back to maybe to the beginning, because, for example, Buddha developed his whole philosophy on suffering. So that's the situation we are in. We want to be happy, but at the same time we are suffering. And then the question is, why do we suffer? So that's the dilemma. This chapter 5, before getting to the details, it can be summarized in like 4 corners. Okay, like here, in terms of the core content. The first one is the justice of the afflictions. So are afflictions just? Is this fair? Because we know, while we hear outside, a place like this is, oh, life is not fair, right? That's what we hear the most. And then us that decided to take time to dive a little deeper than the others into this issue, like today, we're going to look, a part of this chapter then is, are afflictions just? Then the chapter goes into trials and expiations. We live in a world of trials and expiations, and that's what we're going to find here. The alternative is to move up. Well, but then the ticket, there's a price to do that. And the price is what we're doing here today, studying and trying to become a better person, evolve as a spirit so we can move up. Then the next biggest thing in this chapter is about resignation. So in this chapter is going to offer some reasons for resignation. Actually, the reasons for resignation will go all the way from chapter 1 to chapter 28 of the gospel, because those are all the reasons for us to be to accept what God sent us. And then with the other quadrant here, the other corner is about compensation. So, okay, we are suffering. Is this leading to something? So, in few words, why we suffer, the kinds of suffering, how best to suffer, so that, and then goes to the last corner, so that we can reap the benefits of suffering. Now, as I said, it's a very long chapter, and all the spirits up there decided to have its own blog. We call it Instructions from the Spirits, and they cover a bunch of things. Not and this is not everything. You see, under others, there's some more to be there. Suffer the right way versus the wrong way, the suffering, the impact of suffering. Happiness is not from this world, so we need to understand that. People that are studying this chapter will have to understand that some very basic principles. Why do we lose people earlier than expected? Some die at a very early age, premature death, which is actually that one. And then, of course, there's this: if he was good, he would have died. So you need to read that, and then so it looks like we're not good because we have not died, right? But no, that's not the case. Voluntary trials, the true disgrace, the melancholy, the suicide, and many others. So I recommend this chapter to a number of people because the questions abound as to, gee, this life is not fair. Why am I suffering like this? I'm a good person. I do everything. I go to the church, whatever that is, and I do charity. Why am I suffering like that? Wow. Let's start then on the chapter. And it does start with Jesus' promises. You see in the background, that's an illustration for Jesus delivering the blessings from the top of the mount. And the chapter makes reference to a few of them, like this. Under Matthew, blessed are those who cry, because they will be comforted. So blessed are those who cry, those who suffer, because they are going to be comforted. Blessed are those who suffer from feeling hungry and thirsty, for they shall be filled. They're going to be satiated. They're going to get something to eat and drink. Blessed are those who are persecuted for fighting for justice, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And then there is Lucas, or Luke. Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the hungry, because they will be fed. Blessed are you who now cry, because you will smile. So the Sermon on the Mount is really something fundamental, established the base for the rest of it. The first thing that Jesus did when he came out of the woods after 40 days, and that established the base of his whole doctrine or philosophy, religion, everything. And of course, as we study Jesus, we are going to understand why he didn't say, blessed are the rich people. Blessed are those that have everything going well for him in this on earth. Because we are in the planet where we are here to learn, and we only learn the hard way. We can learn, not in the hard way. Some people do, but most don't. And then there's St. Augustine that said, God sent to the world only one pure spirit so far, which is Jesus. But no one spirit that would not have to suffer. So Jesus also suffered a lot, as we know. But most important here for today is those are Jesus' promises. If you do this, you're going to get that. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So let's talk about the justice of the afflictions. We have all these common doubts. Why some suffer more than others? I see that my neighbor, I don't think my neighbor suffers as much as I do. Even within the same house, same home, we're going to say, I don't know, my brother seems to be so lucky. I'm not lucky. Everything goes wrong. Why some seem to never achieve anything while life seems to always smile to others? And we see a lot of those too. We really suffer. We work 12, 18 hours a day. We do all the right things, but somebody else is doing much less than we do, and they make a lot of money. For example, they have all the material stuff that everybody wants in this world. So why are some born poor and others rich? All right. Well, at that point, we need to bring in the idea of multiple lives, right? And multiple experiences. Only in the future lives can Jesus' promises and consolation be achieved by the afflicted of this earthly life. All right, so we have this very short view of things, okay, I'm middle age, and I suffered 40 years, so now I want 40 years of abundance or, richness and stuff. It's not like that. It's not like that. If you can imagine that we've been around for some 300 reincarnations, others over 1,000 reincarnations, and we're still here, subject to all the bad stuff in a world full of what we know. Lack of leadership that leading to fraternity, for example. Our vocabulary, when you think about it, the vocabulary in the minds of those that would have the power to help people does not include, apparently, things like solidarity, fraternity, love. I'm going to deviate a little bit here. When I was studying, and I noticed that none of the therapeutic models spoke about love. And then I went to my teacher, one of them, and say, all these models, they don't talk about love. And then she turns to me and say, yeah, you're right. There's no model of therapy that's based on love. So be it. We'll have to live with that. Anyway, that put us right in the middle of something bigger that controls all that, which is the law of cause and effect. So when we say, why do we suffer more? Why do I suffer more than everybody else? Why some people are rich, some people are poor? We have to consider that we are here today the way we are, and we may have been in past, in the last incarnation, a very rich guy that never heard about charity and never did it. So we are here to learn, for example, to be a person that knows how to give. So the law of cause and effect is something that is going to be with you forever. And we need to understand this law. Continuing with the justice, the vicissitude of life stem from a cause. And if such cause must be fair since God is fair. So, yes, we're suffering. Now here comes again, remember the law of cause effect and effect. I am suffering, but there's a cause for that. And hell was created by me. So nobody suffers for no reason. We are all destined to reach perfection. The law of cause and effect will ensure that we get there. And not just, when you say we, everybody. So some people are at this level of spiritual development, some people are at that level, or there's here, The law of cause and effect will work in such a way that one day all these people are going to be here. Some are going to take longer than the others, but that's all depends on your courage and how much effort you're going to make. So the source of suffering causes, they can come from two different sources: present life or prior lives. And they are all natural consequences of our character and wrongdoings. So there is this very simple formula. If you think you are suffering for something, for something, and then you say, what did I do to get there? And you go back and back and back and back. You go to a psychologist and a psychoanalyst and say, well, where does it come from? And then if you don't find it, it's because it comes from prior lives. And think about a very young kid that will die with cancer, 3-year-old or whatever. So the kid has barely learned to speak. That kid could not have done something as big as that. So it is tied to the past. So that is a very important point. Although we know it, we don't think about it. So if we follow chapter 5, if we read it, if we understand it, then you're going to be able to tie things to the past. And the important thing is then, after that, to work on those things. Okay. Looks like I forgot to change the title. In this other book, we're deviating from the gospel for just 1 second here, because we're going to go and get this information from the other book by Allan Kardec, Hell and Heaven. The code of the future, I'm missing a word here, but then, Can you get me back there? All right. What we're going to read there is, since God's justice is infinite, good and evil are strictly considered, there being no single action, only one evil thought that has no fatal consequences, as there is no one meritorious deed that is lost. So this is not me saying that. That's in another book from Kardec. By the way, after reading chapter 5, and if you can read this book, Hell and Heaven, oh boy, and then you're going to really say, I have work to do. Every committed misconduct, every evil done is a contracted debt that must be paid. If it is not in this present life, it will be in the next, or the next, or the next, because all existences are solidary among them. So I like to say, or remember people the following. So we have so much items or debt to work on. And when we decide to come down here for another incarnation, when we are allowed to, we don't bring out all of our problems as part of our main agenda for this incarnation. So in this incarnation, I'm going to focus on humility, and this and the other. And the rest is you leave behind for the next and then for the next. And if we can imagine a box over there that says, this is all of your problems, we come back and then you're going to see that the amount of issues increases because of the stuff that we did during this incarnation. So we need to breach that cycle. Right? So we come over here to resolve our issues and don't create others. Otherwise, we're never going to finish. So the source of suffering, let's talk about present life. Lack of discipline and perseverance. Yeah, everything, is a matter of discipline. It's a matter of us being focused on what we need to do and persevere, have the courage to persevere. So when you work on that, when you work on an issue, and you persevere on having that issue, address it. For example, you're too aggressive. When you work on that and you persevere, you're going to see results. When you don't do that, chances are, big chances, that you're going to repeat that on and on. So, and then you're only increasing you're worsening your situation. Bad behavior and no limits to desires. So desire is really like a temptation, We have these big desires, could be for material things, could be for for a relationship. There's a ton of desires that we have, and when we don't know how to control that becomes a major issue for us. Something that that's going to cost us a lot, spiritually speaking, because of something you're going to see in a minute. Disgraceful relationships based on wrong interests. And so, my marriage it's not working. Worked well for the first couple of years, and then has turned into a major disgrace. Well, that happens when it could happen for a number of things, but one of those things is exactly what's here, that you had different interests marrying to the person. Lack of moderation. This is the thing that I was expecting to come. So moderation is absolutely important. That means, if you can imagine moderation being like a scissor, it's going to cut all the excesses. So it's going to put, whatever you want, whatever you desire, whatever you want to do, you're going to do the right way, and around right amount, the right time. And when you don't have that scissor called moderation, and then you go and try to overdo things, and then you fall back in a big trap. Illnesses due to lack of care and excesses. Sure, if you drink every day, chances are that's gonna somehow bring some problems to you. Unhappy parents for failing to combat their kids' bad tendencies. We've got to be careful here, because this is a little bit out of context. Okay, our kids are individual spirits at their appropriate level of development, whatever they made so far, they have obtained so far as a spirit, and then they come to us. One thing that the gospel in the chapter, I think 4, to honor your father and mother, it's going to say that one of our jobs as parents is to identify bad inclinations, tendencies, and work on them. You're not going to change his past. You're not going to change his agenda. You just collaborate with him. But of course, his agenda before he came down here definitely, had something about the issue that's occurring right now. that you're seeing it's coming out. So that's why Kardec and the spirits put that in this chapter. Well, now that we went through this list, here you ask your question, whom to blame such afflictions? Lack of moderation, bad behavior, lack of discipline, illnesses due to excesses. Whom to blame? You cannot blame anybody. You know, you can always say, well, it's because of my wife, I have to drink because otherwise I can't support it. Or is that the last resort? Your resort? You know, of course not, right? So the suffering from these causes, meaning present life, certainly amount to a significant part of our overall suffering. According to Joana de Angelis, in a book that I don't remember which one, she calls our attention to that. We come over here with, let's say, a basket full of problems to address, and then once you know, as you grow up, you start to create basket number 2 and then basket number 3. A lot of what we suffer from is because of the things that we did here, this incarnation. All right, now let's talk about the suffering due to prior lives. They may look like fatalities because you cannot reconcile what's going on right now with you to something that you did in this life. So then you say, well, this is God sent, you know, it's a fatality. Like some of those, the loss of loved ones. It could be your kid, could be your wife or husband. So then, what have I done? Well, there's a lesson for you. There's a reason for that, and it's not a fatality. It's the way it has to be for very precise reasons. Accidents that could not have been avoided. Material losses that happen despite all your prudence. Natural plagues in innate illnesses, physical defects, cognitive deficiencies, etc. So, you know, to think about autist person, you know, he was born like that, so who can blame him for that? In regarding, you know, his behavior in this incarnation, that would not make sense at all. So, if God is just, everything we understood so far makes sense, then you're going to see he brought that thing with him for him to serve a purpose, for him to learn certain things, or to avoid him to do certain other things that otherwise he would be doing. You certainly may have heard, not certainly, but you may have heard that some spirits come over here on a wheelchair or without hands or whatever, to avoid killing himself once again. So there is a reason and explanation, and we don't have access to that. Just like, okay, let me go back to my prior life and see it. No, it doesn't happen that way. But one of the things that is going to come up here is have to have faith in God and understand that the things that we don't understand, and it seems like God sent, it must have been a great reason for that. And it is for our own benefit. Men are not always punished in present lives. However, they can never escape from consequences of their wrongdoings in the future. Yeah, some of the stuff we do here, we don't pay entirely here. We may not even start to pay it here, or just a bit. Think about, for example, a criminal, right? He may go to jail and then say, oh, okay, so he's already paying for that. Well, it's such a big sin that he will have to go back, suffer whatever he needs to suffer over there, learn whatever he needs to learn over there, and come back in a situation where he is going then to start uh, rescuing himself. But it's going to be a long trip. I guess Dufault, what's that again? Ernest Dufault, in one of her books, she says that hatred, for example, takes you several reincarnations to get rid of. Imagine that. Okay. Elected trials. And of course, on purpose, I put, Mother Teresa in there. So far we saw that we suffer because of things that we did in this life and because of the things we did in prior lives. And then there are a third situation here, which are the voluntary trials. So you come over here. You did not need that, but here's what the gospel says. Not all sufferers on earth are necessarily in this situation because of past lives problems. Some good spirits elect to undertake some trials as a way to finish their spiritual improvement process on this category of world, right? So they're pretty good to go to the next level of world, and they could come. In the case of Mother Teresa, she came over here on a mission, like Ch.V and many others, on a mission, and they also brought something to do in the spare time, right? A problem to work on, something that could be credited as a help to somebody like Chico that had this adopted son, was a major issue for him, for example. I always remember San Francisco, St. Francis, that died blind. He had to have both eyes burned, and they could not do anything better than that at the time. All right. The other issue we encounter when I think about the things we've been talking about is, how come I don't remember what I did wrong so that I could better understand why I'm going through what I'm going through? Well, first thing is we don't really forget our past experiences and achievements and all the issues. We are just not conscious of them when incarnated in the state of alert like we are here. But they are available. Okay. Thank you. They are actually available to us in some other ways. Before we go to those some other ways, we are spirits, and whatever we did, whatever memories we have, it's in our mind, and the mind is in the spirit. And we are here with something on top of our spirit, so to speak. But our real self is without this, is the spirit. That's always the same. It's an individual spirit that's going to go on and on and on, and on, no matter how many reincarnations. And in that spirit, there's a mind with all the register of what we did so far, and also, of course, what we accomplished so far. There are situations. And I know what I'm doing wrong. And I promised myself 3 times already that I was not going to do that again. But, for example, you may access your subconscious or the unconscious part of your mind in your dreams. You may access your archives, under altered state of consciousness, for example, hypnosis. And of course, after discarnation, and it's not going to be just like that. The spirits will going to help you as you are prepared to go back. So it's not that maybe some of us are going to wake up and remember a bunch of stuff, but most people have to be prepared to before they can access their archives. But anyway, our history again is in our unconsciousness, and although we cannot access that, the unconscious part of our life influences our consciousness, and our personality, our desires, our behavior, everything. I like to go through a very quick exercise sometimes, which is imagine, that instead of you, I had a bunch of materialistic people here from for whom life starts when they are born and everything extinguishes when as they die. And then I like to say, well, if we were all born just like that, from zero basis, and we go through to all the school system, religious systems, etc. So you could expect at this point that we all have we are about the same kind of a person, right? And but we are not. We're so different, so different. And what makes that difference is the baggage that you carry with you from one incarnation to the other. So you're not going to come here with a nice plain slate and say, okay, now I'm going to build from here. No, you're going to start, you're going to continue what we've been working on. And if you are a bad guy, you're going to be a bad guy to start with, and hopefully you're going to get better. But, our subconscious part of our mind is feeding the conscious all the time. So, this veil over the past. If God deemed it convenient to put a veil over the past, it must be because it's better for us. Let's see. It does avoid humiliations. It does help us not to be exalted about or glorify our pride. I'm not here saying, oh, by the way, you don't know me, but I was the king of, last incarnation. And uh, it, it, I don't know that. And that avoids me to get me worse than before by reinforcing stuff that we don't need. And I'm here exactly, if I was a king and I'm here now, this way, exactly because I need to learn things that are important outside my kingdom. Like Buddha, he went outside and said, oh, but this is not the life that you guys keep telling me all about all the time. This is real life, suffering. Avoids humiliation. For example, one night one morning wake up and had this dream, and you saw yourself as the person that crucified your wife, past life. And now she's here as the most wonderful person helping you. You wouldn't be humiliated. One way or the other, the more you think about it, we get to this question. Question is, didn't come. Okay. But those two things are good because it put a limit or would harm. Okay, what would put a limit? Those two things, which would put a limit or would harm our efforts to meet our commitments to work on our moral growth. So then we don't know what we did. We don't know where we're going to go from here. We just have today. But we get help instead of having the memories to help us in the right direction. Let's see that. before, remember that generally we are born each time in a familiar environment and establish relationships with people we lived with before as an opportunity to repair our wrongdoings to them in the past. So we have a bigger family than the one that we know in this incarnation, right? Because we have so many incarnations, and we had sons and kids, and then we sometimes we come as a kid, as a son, sometimes we come as a father. But we have a big family up there, so we just decided that this time we're going to be here with these spirits for good reasons. Everything makes sense. But you're going to be with the same kind of people, same environment. Environment here meaning, your context, your family, those spirits around you are those with whom you have to reconcile, you have to help, or whatever the situation is. So, how would you do that if you had a clear memory of the past? Okay, we don't have the memory, but God gave us this, the voice of our consciousness. So it's there. If you did something bad, it's in your spirit, it's in your mind, and it is in your consciousness. And you have enough elements flowing from the past to your present, from the unconscious part of your mind to the conscious part of your mind that will tell you something about what you are about to do, whether that's wrong or right. Mhm. We also have intuitive inclinations coming, for example, from the spiritual world. Our mentors, those spirits that devote time to us. So every new existence is a starting point in that sense, although we bring all that baggage. And our inclinations tell us what we need to work on. So my question coming from me is, what is most important then? To know what we did wrong in the prior life, or what we need to work on in this life so that we can get better, we can improve, and next time we're going to be in a better shape. So the past not going to help you, or the help that you need from the past is already there. Your consciousness will tell you your inclinations. So given such explanations, what should we reflect about? What are the things that we believe um, affect me in such a way that does not allow me to be better? Or what are the things that I suffer from today that reflect something that I did in the past, whatever that was, and I'm here exactly to work on them. So it is possible for us to kind of know where we're coming from and what are the issues we need to work on. So that's the kind of the reflection we need to make. Now we're going to go for reasons for resignation. And I'm going to offer you a definition. There must be a ton of definitions for this, for resignation, but here is the way I look at it. It's a legitimate acceptance based on a solid faith in God, of course, of God's plans for us, and with full confidence in Jesus and his promises. So resignation is accept in a genuine way because I have this faith. I know the law of cause and effect, and that's part of a plan that God has for me for my own benefit. And I have full confidence when Jesus said, blessed are those that cry, because they're going to be consoled, for example. Faith and resignation prayer is a support for the soul, but it is not enough. It must be supported by a living faith in the goodness of God. It has often been said that God does not impose a heavy burden on the back of the weak, but that the burden is proportionate to the forces, just as the rewards will be proportionate to resignation and courage. I put this in bold letters, resignation and courage, because just like praying is not enough if you don't have faith, resignation without action is not going to do much for you. You can, okay, you spend this life being very resignated about something, resigned about something, but you don't work on that until you have the courage to face your reality and work on those particular issues that you have to work on. So the reward will be more precious the greater the affliction, but this reward must be deserved. Right, so from this other book, Boa Nova, we have the situation here, go and don't sin no more. That Jesus in that famous passage with the prostitute, right? On the issue of, throw the first stone, those without any sin, right? The only thing is that Jesus was supposed to be riding on the sand and not in Copacabana beach. You see the tiles in there? When I saw it, it was too late for me to change. But anyway, go and sin no more. And then there's the situation here. He, coming back to Capernaum, he met a man whom he had cured before. The guy was blind. He cured the guy, and he meets the guy again. And then he says, so you've been cured. Don't sin no more, so that nothing worse may happen to you. So nothing worse. If I again go back to Joana de Angelis, right? She reminds us that you have an opportunity to work on something right now, and you don't. Next time you have that opportunity, that problem is going to be bigger. And it's going to be much more difficult. Or it could be under much more difficult situations. And then from the other little book, Vigiai and Orai, Bacelli, Irmão José, it says, the lesson only stops when it fulfills the role of teaching. I thought that was great. Going back to what Jesus was telling to this, in these two cases here, don't sin no more, be careful, next time could be worse, all that stuff. The lesson is kind of glued to you. It's allocated to you. It's yours. It's not going to disappear until you learn the lesson. So there's no way we can kind of go around the lesson, or in other words, the trials and the expiations. From the book Boa Nova, still, until the sponge of time absorbs earthly imperfections, through centuries of necessary experience, the winners of the world are poor beings walking through dark abysses. It is imperative, therefore, to pay attention to the soft and humble soul of the vanquished, those defeated. To their hearts, God carries blessings of infinite goodness. That's chapter 11 of that book in there. Very profound. Time will help you. It's in your side. You have enough time. Don't turn the other way when there's a brother or sister that needs help. Okay, I guess we're going to stop here, but after this one, here's a message from May. That would be, trust always, confia sempre. And every bit of that message is important. It kind of wraps up what we're trying to communicate here. Do not lose your faith in the shadows of the world. Never lose your faith to God, no matter how difficult your life is. Even though your feet are bleeding, go forward anyway, lifting your faith as heavenly light above yourself. So don't be perseverant. Go have the courage to pursue your goals, to overcome your situation, having faith in God. Believe and battle, striving, doing good, and wait patiently. So, patiently. Don't just keep doing good. Keep on doing the best you can to others. Do the things we learn here, no matter how difficult the situation is. And wait with patience. Your rewards are reserved for you. Nobody's going to touch it. Everything passes and everything is renewed on earth. But what comes from heaven will remain. Laws are not going to change. There's not a chance that you're going to work under one law today and then you got over there and it's, oh, the law changed. No. They are perfect and they are here forever. Now look at this. Of all the unfortunate, the most unfortunate are those who have lost confidence in God and in themselves, because the greatest infortune is to suffer the privation of faith and continue living. And that's really, 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 really profound. So the most unfortunate are those that are suffering and have no faith. That's I don't know if I was there or not, but it always brings back to me in the situation when Jesus was on top of that mount to Mount whatever, I forgot, to deliver the blessings. Those guys were in this situation, right? Uh, this they have this desperation. They were suffering. They had no future. Nobody cared for him. There was not even one God at the time, right? And then Jesus come with the blessings, and they say, "Wow, God is thinking of me." And can you imagine the impact of that? Can you imagine bigger consolation? Increase therefore your looks and walk. Fight and serve. Learn and advance. The dawn shines beyond the light. The dawn, okay. The dawn, amanhecer, shines beyond the night. So that's part of your faith as well. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Today, it is possible that the storm would crush your heart and torment your ideal, stinging you with grief and threatening you with death. But do not forget, however, that tomorrow will be another day. So we're going to stop here. And I hope the message came across, the importance of chapter 5. And it's so important that we understand what we are here for, what we came here for, and understand that we are students, understand that we are those that Jesus looked upon, looked at and said, I'm here for you, you that's poor, and you that are prepared for my words. With that, let's do the final prayer. Let's see if we can find our true self, our soul, and leave everything else outside. And be here and now with the good spirits that are around us, all the good vibrations from heaven. And let's take the opportunity to be very humble. and admit that no matter how much we strive, we cannot do it without their help, the help of God, the help of Jesus. Let's ask for guidance all the time, for good inspirations. Let's ask the spiritual world that help us always look into our consciousness before we can make any decision whatsoever. Let's ask our good mentors to never ever let us alone, because we want to do this. We want to be good. We want to be true Son of God. We just need a lot of help given the state where we are as spirits that are here on earth to learn, but with limited resources. Still a lot to do to contain our desires, our temptations. So let me ask Jesus again to continue to support us as long as we are working toward Him, as long as we are putting our best effort forward. So be it.